support it, you can't move on it. I think there's some other things, I'm not a tax expert, but I think there's some other things in the tax code that we could use for when they buy machinery that would allow them to have a bigger deductibility on their machinery when they're first buying it, and accelerating the depreciation costs on all that major equipment. I mean, you're talking about tractors and combines, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We need to have better depreciation accelerated on that. That would help in some of the initial purchasing.
Susan?
I hadn't heard of that program, and I'm leery of it. To me, it's to help for the government, help a private citizen purchase land. Is that?
No, it's not to purchase land, it's to give it gives a property tax credit as an incentive to find, under my understanding of it, for a new farmer to be able to begin renting land, and I would suspect work towards purchasing the land eventually. But as a way to be able to encourage more young people to take up farming.
Yes, which I certainly support, but I guess I agree with Tom in that we can't have keep giving tax credits and tax credits how the budget allows. I was thinking Iowa State Extension Service provides a service where they match up young people that want to start farming with someone that's already farming but doesn't have a son or daughter that wants to take over the farm, and so they kind of are doing an apprenticeship type program. And I thought that sounded like a wonderful idea, but as to the other, you know, I just would have to, I don't know enough about it to make a good opinion.
Well, our state legislature has funded film tax credits and let the Hollywood types come to Iowa with a blank check and spend our taxpayer money. So I would rather see it go, tax credits going to beginning farmers than the film industry.
No, of course, I would not support a boondoggle like that. So I would just need more details to make an educated decision on that topic.
Okay. The next question will be for you, Susan. Iowa's topsoils are among the most productive and fertile on the planet and are a key component to our state's agricultural prowess. District 8 lies in the Des Moines Lode, the state's most productive region. Since 1900, the state's topsoil has decreased from an average of 16 inches to a current average of 7 inches, and we continue to lose about 1/16 of an inch annually. The viability of Iowa's topsoils is essential to the sustained success of Iowa's economic engine. And what policies would you encourage to ensure that Iowa's topsoils remain intact for future generations of farmers?
That is a very good question, and I think a very difficult one. I think it's a problem that everyone wants to do something about, but when it comes to the solution, it's not me, and so we don't get decisions made on that. I just have to honestly say to that question, I don't have a good answer at this time. I think it's something that will need a lot of study.
Tom?
Well, I actually think the farmers have done a really good job of changing their farming habits and their procedures using no-till farming. It drives my dad crazy to see the no-till. You have to understand, he grew up as a young boy. He started out farming with horses, and he's seen the whole evolution, and he still likes to see the nice, clean, cultivated rows of corn. So the no-till, when we drive by it just drives him crazy. But it's those kinds of procedures that are really helping to save our topsoil. That is our treasure here in Iowa. And believe me, the farmers are doing everything that they can do to preserve that, because they know that that's their livelihood and the livelihood for their children and their grandchildren. I also like to see along the drainage ditches. The farmers have went in there and planted, I can't remember the proper name of them, but 10, 15 foot wide strips of grass and trees, which helps cut down on the wind erosion. So I think we just continue to work with the ag departments there at Iowa State the extension services, and organizations like the Farm Bureau, and I think we'll come up with even better solutions in order to save our topsoil.
All right. The next question comes from Bob Donahue, Pocahontas City Administrator. Should the decision to be a municipal electric or natural gas utility be decided by each individual community or by the Iowa Utilities Board, and why? Tom?
Can you repeat that, please?
Certainly.
We're talking for municipal utilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Should the decision to be a municipal electric or natural gas utility be decided by each individual community, or should it be decided by the Iowa Utilities Board, and why?
Well, I guess in this instance, I would favor local control. I don't know why we wouldn't want local control. I guess it should be up to what's most cost effective and beneficial to the community. I know there's been some problems with the state utility board. They seem to favor a lot of the bigger companies. Like I was talking about earlier, with Iowa has like 100 independent telephone companies, and the utility board always seems to want to rule in favor of the big carriers like Verizon and such, and kind of toss the small carriers off to the side. So maybe with the electric and the natural gas are kind of doing the same thing. So unless I learn something else, I guess I would go for local control.
Susan?
I agree. I think it should be up to a community, and I think the utilities board, of course, would need to set the standards and make sure it's run properly, but I don't know why the individual communities couldn't vote on it themselves.
All right, Susan, the next question will be for you. The state of Iowa, like many other states, was significantly impacted by the economic downturn in 2008 and 2009. Our long-term budget outlook is mixed. Last year, Iowa's deficit was around $1 billion, but our per capita indebtedness is 49th in the country, and our state currently maintains a AAA bond rating. As a legislator, you will have an opportunity to address the state's budget for at least the next 2 years. What is your assessment of the state's long-term fiscal stability? And what actions would you take to correct or improve upon this assessment?
Yes, I think we are in good shape compared to the rest of the country, excuse me. Can you repeat the last part of it, please? What steps?
What is your assessment of the, okay. What actions would you take to correct or improve upon your assessment?
Well, I think what we're doing is working, obviously, with that high bond rating, and for having being one of the lowest in debt of all the states, and the only one in the Midwest that's higher than us, I think, is North Dakota, and they have an oil well. We're really in good shape overall, and our unemployment is lower than other states. I think we're on the right track that way.
Tom?
I beg to differ, if you can believe that. Last year, our state legislature had to plug our budget gap with one-time money, and they had to clean out a lot of the state's savings accounts. I've heard my opponent refer to iJobs a couple times. I think now is a good time to address that program. Actually, the way it ended up working out, it makes Chet Culver look like a fiscal conservative, because he only wanted around $600 million for the iJob programs. But that wasn't good enough for the majority party there in the legislature. They had to throw another $150 to $200 million into the iJobs program. This iJobs program is going to cost us $55 million a year in interest payments for the next 23 years. When paid back, it will have cost the state $1.7 billion. And we'll put that into perspective. If you had a child born to you tomorrow, that child could grow up and all through his childhood and through maturity at 19, 20 years, have a child of their own, and that child would be in debt still, paying off this iJobs program. This program was touted as it was going to create 30,000 jobs, and then it was, well, we'll create hundreds of jobs, and now they're struggling to say that they've saved, not created, but saved 7,000 jobs. I question why Iowa even needed an iJobs. Washington, D.C. was promising that when they borrowed trillions of dollars that the clouds were going to part and the sun was going to come out and our national economy was just going to springboard. So why are we borrowing our own money? Why are we putting our children and our grandchildren further in debt when the federal government said that they were going to take care of us? I don't know. The Democrats had their summer of recovery where the unemployment actually ended up upticking. I think it's time for an autumn of recovery, as in recovering our state house by electing those who will go down there and make sound fiscal decisions.
Well, as I said before, the iJobs program, I think at least we are paying and improving our infrastructure instead of paying out unemployment. And I'm not going to argue about how many jobs it creates, although I think it has created some. But even so, we'll have something for our money. Furthermore, the gambling money from our gambling is going to retire some of that debt. Many of the projects that we've undertaken in iJobs, you have to consider, yes, we borrowed to do that money, but right now, interest rates are very low. If we put off these projects and have bridges collapse, it's going to be much more expensive, and of course, horrible if there would be human life lost in it. But even fiscally, when you put it off, it's going to be more expensive when you do it, and interest rates are going to be higher. So in the long run, it may save us money. So I think that the state is doing some things that they need to that need to be done, and I'm optimistic about the outlook overall. Right now, things are bad. We've had a 100-year flood. Many of those iJobs are in eastern Iowa. Much money has had to go, millions and millions of dollars, because of the flood. So that's an unexpected, unusual expense. It's not typical. The same thing for the national economy being in a depression. That's hit everyone, and that's something that is beyond the state legislators' control. And we're just trying to come up with solutions and looking at all avenues that we can.
Well, it's not necessarily beyond the legislature's control. Over the last 2 years, House Republicans have provided line item budget cutting measures to be voted on line item by line item. Now, normally you present a bill, you accept the whole bill, or you reject the whole bill. They presented these bills as line items. One of the things, and this is very interesting, the Iowa Legislative Agency says that Iowa taxpayers are spending $83 million a year on illegal aliens, on services to illegal aliens. When the House Republicans presented this on the House floor, the Democrats said, no, it's not $83 million. Your figure's wrong. It's $90 million. Well, so the Republicans said, okay, let's cut $90 million from the taxpayers. We recently received $96 million from the federal government in order to shore up Medicaid, those two words get flip-flopped back and forth, to shore up our Medicaid and to keep some of our teachers hired. Well, if we're spending, we'll use the Democrats' figure, if we're spending $90 million a year on illegal aliens, if we would cut the support to them, we could have hired and kept our own teachers on. We could have shored up our own Medicaid. Let's put this in perspective. Iowa's $96 million was part of a $26 billion aid package to states that was approved by the Congress. The problem with this $26 billion is the Democrats in Congress had to cut. And guess where they cut? They cut $26 billion out of the USDA's food budget program. So we're stealing from putting food in people's mouths in order to pay for teachers when we could have done it ourselves. Self-sufficiency and fiscal responsibility are still virtues.
So, do you think the state of Iowa should turn down the federal dollars then, and not plug the budget holes with it?